Hey, good morning, my neighbors. Welcome to another episode of BYTTT. Before you take the trade, quite a bit of stuff that I gotta go ahead and go over, and trying to juggle the new school season at the same doggone time has thrown my day completely off. I thought I had it in control, but let's get the work done. It doesn't even matter any more. So the first thing I want to kind of talk about is what's going on with NQ. And if we look at this chart, you'll see that NQ is trying its best to continue the party to the upside. I think they want to try to see if they can get to the highs roughly around that 23,845, somewhere around there. And the problem that I have with that is because it's kind of like that choppy up a little bit, but there's a lot of wide ranges here. Kind of wide like April a little bit, but not to that magnitude, but it is kind of deep. So you're talking about 150, 45 points gained there, 396 points gain lost there. This one was 2,000. I don't know if we're going to set up something like a 2,000 point day. I don't think so, but you can kind of see right here, this one was 459, this one was 480. So I feel like something is building up, and it could be building up to just massively drop, but I think generally speaking we have been on a bullish run for a little bit. Let me go over to my earnings cycle, and we'll probably run into some tickers a little bit later, and we'll just close that off. But yeah, just keep an eye on what the Nasdaq is doing. So let's keep this party going. We got oil. I kind of gave you that warning. It did kind of play around with me. I knew it was going to come down to this level, but they gave it a nice little spike down a little bit lower on that Friday. Brought us around to $62.80. I think this thing can test all the way back to this order block. Look for oil to probably get to 61 as bullish divergences are getting disrespected. This one right here is supposed to be gold, but guess what? It's not. So let's go ahead and fix that. Gold has been pulling back a little bit, but again, gold is inside of that wedge that I was telling you about, and we kind of spiked up to that top side. So I do feel like this is probably pullback for another attempt to try to take that upside out. So just keep that in mind, that whatever pullback here, if this thing starts to reset but price didn't go nowhere, almost like there's a brick wall holding it up, it could be order block, it could be the range, or whatever the case may be, it could easily go back into that wedge action. If not, this thing could be a rising wedge action and start to really dump and start taking out a lot of people's stop losses. Just keep that in mind. This one is silver. Silver is down. I think that's the reason why gold is down the way it is. Look like we're putting a daily evening star here. We didn't really make a bearish divergence. I really want to see them get to that $40 level. So it's having a little bit of a fist fight at this order block. We closed above it, but guess what? They went ahead and swept through that liquidity. So keep an eye on that one. Here's the British pound. British pound, we are at our bump and run, and this thing has pulled back into the level, looking for a rejection. If this thing gives you a rejection, we might get the rest of the continuation of what looks like a head and shoulder. Great move. This is why when you do measured moves, you take the 50%. Because if you actually took this to the downside and like, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and take the whole entire measured move down to this downside, guess what? You're completely upset right now. So that said, congratulations to those that took the reversal. I hope people took their profits on this drops, especially my Forex community. And we'll see what happens with the British pound. Bitcoin. I warned y'all. I warned y'all before Friday came in. I told you that this whole entire area was an area that they're concerned. They came for fair value gaps that Bitcoin can possibly push up. If you did mark this trend line, right? This was a micro trend to a major trend. And I told y'all we were sitting at the edge of what's supposed to be a major trend. There could be a lot of liquidity here. Look at that sweep. Massive move to the upside. Especially, we just did a nice little rejection here on Saturday. Oh, that was the setup right there. A lot of people probably thought that this was going to go down. Now people are starting to take some of their profits. Look for Bitcoin to get to 125. I love what this price action is doing right now. And it did it before our August 14th date. That was our prediction a couple of days ago. Russell's just sideways. We got a whole bunch of bump and run action that's happening here, but it's just struggling to hold anything. So I think this is more consolidation and sideways movement. Looking for this bad boy to probably come back and pull down to the lower register a little bit, giving some space, because this is now building into what could be deemed an order block, and no one wants to go ahead and hold through an order block unless they have sizable cushion. So look for the Russell to probably get back to like 2170, 2160, and then it's probably going to go ahead and try to push up again. I got a target of 2500 that I'm looking to see if Russell can get to. And then the last one is the infamous and undeniable, the most violent, that just destroys all types of portfolios. In the right corner, it is the dollar, right? Now, the US dollar, I tell y'all this all the time, chart the US dollar. I do think people that plays with the VIX and chart with the VIX, it is perfectly fine. I'm not taking anything away from it. I love the dollar because it looks like a pure chart, right? And if we look at this chart, it came right in to try to fill the fair value gap and say, bears, get out the way, we're coming through. And the bears was like, nah, we're just going to grab your liquidity. Thank you for the free cash. So a nice little drop to this level is already giving us a little bit of signs that it could come back down. This can push the market up even further. Also, you got to also remember, we closed inside this box. We were supposed to close above here. In the next 10 hours, if this does not close outside of this box, I'm going to start to think that this is going to come down a little bit more violent, assuming that everybody in the sell side is on this side with support from the fair value gap rejection. And then we could probably take some pressure onto a lot of these bulls that probably try to make this bullish divergence pan out. This could be a pullback because we are still bullish on the dollar from the MACD standpoint, but generally speaking, this is what you want to kind of see. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the news. The first thing I want to go ahead and talk about, it is what is coming up. I'm going to go ahead and do a whole entire rundown on the economic calendar, and then we're going to get our news. So the first thing is Monday, we barely have anything, right? We usually don't have anything, but we got 3-month and 6-month bill. I would say look out for 11:30 for some type of action. Again, if this interest rate starts to shoot up, just keep your eyes on the bonds. They can park their money there. I don't think that that's happening yet, but you'll see the market starts to shift when you start to see that rise. CPI data, that's the bad boy that everybody is probably waiting for before they actually pour their money in. So be very conscious of your position. If you got something that expires, oh, if you got stuff that's expiring in September, this might be the perfect time to like shave off, close, adjust accordingly, and sit on cash, because that CPI data can really, especially if you're on option contracts, that can really eat up using theta against you. So keep that in mind. The mortgage budget, and I don't know much about that mortgage budget statement. I'm gonna have to probably dig into that. No, sorry, not mortgage, monthly budget statement. I don't think this has a lot of effect, especially with CPI. I think this is going to be more key. You may get a reaction because this is a medium foul at 2 o'clock. But again, every 4 hours, there's always a major shift because that's when the futures market usually shifts on those 4 hours. So I think you're just going to get some natural movement there. So just keep that in mind just in case. We're going to get mortgage information between the applications, the refinance. Get this every week. This just gives you a nice little gauge on the housing and tell you if people are going to invest into their future. 30-year mortgage rates is going to come out as well. Oil inventory, which I think is going to be even more lighter, and they are going to up production, and then they're going to drop price even further. That's what my anticipation. I can be completely wrong. We got a 17-week bill auction that's going to be coming out on Wednesday. Keep that in mind as well. Let's keep this party going. Some GDP growth over Europe. That's probably going to make some overnight plays good. Jobless claim. I just peeped that. Hold on. Didn't I say? Interesting. Okay, this is probably a first. I don't know if y'all caught that. CPI data is coming out on Tuesday. And then we got Wednesday that should automatically have PPI, which is the producer side. So consumer side, how we spending money, where we're deploying our cash, and all that nice stuff. And then there's going to be PPI. I feel like that's going to be a build-up of positioning on Wednesday, please pay attention to your charts on Wednesday, because Thursday at 8:30 in the morning, I will not be surprised there'll be a violent move. Not saying it's going to be opposite or anything like that. I just say keep up with your charts, because there's probably something in the fingerprints that's going to go ahead and let you know what they are planning. All right. PPI is going to be 8:30 in the morning. We got some bill auctions. We got mortgage rates 30 and 15 year that's going to be in its place. And it looks like we got some Fed speaking and Fed balance sheet. Again, we got to be diversifying. I want to see them starting to get light with this. You decided not to do any of your interest rate cuts. All right, cool, no problem. But what are you doing with this opportunity and momentum? They should be divesting. Let's see. Going back to Wednesday. Yeah, we got Fed speaking, oil inventory. Very interesting this week. Of course, and then Friday, this is when the August contract should be expiring. Let me double check that, make sure that's the third week. Yep, third week. We should get some. Oh my God, I'm over here studying. We should have some contract expirations during this time. And this is why I wanted to do recordings instead of it being live. Look at me just stuttering up. And then we got ourselves retail sales, X autos, like all this stuff is going to be impactful on how people park their money. Michigan consumer sentiment, one of my favorites. We usually get a major move around 10 o'clock based on this parameter, and that's going to fall on a Friday. I would say this is a medium one. Keep an eye on that for 4 o'clock. But overall, that is what it looks like inside our economic calendar. So let's keep this party going. Let me grab this chart and boom, boom, boom. There we go. So if y'all don't know, I love using CNBC because they have a tendency, and of course, keep signing me out. Stop signing me out. Paramount buys UFC rights. Interesting. I don't know if y'all noticed that Netflix now does a lot of the WWE content that and was it NBC? Might be NBC or one of them. They're the ones that were really doing a lot of that Monday Night Raw and everything else. So I think that's probably a big factor when it's all said and done. So just keep that in mind as this is breaking news. Of course, you're probably going to get a nice little pullback on Paramount. I want to say Paramount is also NBC, is it? Could it be that they shifted from that to that, knowing that wrestling is fake? Ooh, that would have been very, very fun to kind of like speculate and see what was the reason in the background to that. I'm gonna have to dig on that. Let's see. What's the first thing we're gonna talk about? Well, you know what? Let's talk about this because people keep asking me about this company, and I don't know much about them. Not you, new one, right? And this company is called CoreWeave, right? And I believe they're in the semiconductor. No, I don't think it's semiconductor. They're somewhere in tech. That's what I believe it is. Let me go ahead and put that. I think it's CRWV. A lot of people are talking about this. Let me do some digging while I have y'all here. Package software, yeah. They're in this because I thought of them as Core Civic. I thought it was the jail code because the word core, but come to find it's CoreWeave, right? CoreWeave engaged in the powers of creation and delivering the intelligence that drives innovation. Oh, that's very ambiguous. It offers solutions used by organizations of all sizes requiring sophisticated AI computing. So probably because of the AI space, everybody's running to that. From largest to enterprise to small, well-funded startups. Interesting. The company was founded by Michael E. Rader, Brian, okay, and then 17 out in Livingston, New Jersey. Okay, let's just look at this chart. It looks like we have something relatively solid here because you got a nice little curl up here that I'm seeing. Let me get rid of you. You can kind of see we kind of curled up over here. This is pushing around 2025 at April. Brand new company. Looks like it IPO'd in the middle of March and it's only rising. Here's my thing about anything that's on IPO. This is our spike, breaker structure, spiked up to the top, and they're about to launch their first earnings after, what's that, missing their earnings before? not generating the revenue EPS yet, and expected a negative EPS with 1 billion in revenue. Look, I'm not saying run away from CoreWeave. I'm not saying that, but I don't like IPOs for this reason. I will not be surprised that this thing pulls back something even more vicious as people probably come back to that $64. This was 187 just about a couple months ago. So they were probably chasing for that $200 level. We got some order blocks that's here, so there's a lot of selling pressure that happens somewhere around this area. And right now it's sitting on top of probably one type of order block. Maybe we'll call it this one, just out of curiosity. Yeah, I kind of like that because you got rejection, used of support and everything else. So let's call it that. And with that being the case, we're probably sitting on top of a micro trend. And as long as it follows suit, then that's okay. But overall speaking, this micro trend is now testing this major trend, which is from here. Oh, come on, give me a line. From here to here. That right there. Do you see that? Do y'all see that? Does this mean for you to invest into this? Well, right now it says the raising the price target on CoreWeave heading into earnings says AI ramp is intact. I hope this is going to be a perfect example of buy the rumor, sell the news. Lots of rumors, selling of probably news when they finally got up into these highs. It changed its character by breaking major bullish structure. And right now it's attempting to break structure but not change character. If we get into this register here, maybe we'll trigger that. Actually, I'm going to mark this off just because I think there's going to be another problem. You're sitting in between two order blocks. And with it being up $6 pre-market, that is very, very cute. Their earnings is going to be tomorrow in the evening. So this could be a nice little setup for a day push up. Morning push up for a daytime sell-off right before the end of the market. So just keep that in mind. Do not waste your time and energy without properly doing your due diligence. Remember, fiduciary advisors are required for obvious reasons. I'm not a fiduciary. I'm just a person that looks at the charts, and I'm trying to explain to y'all that at the end of the day, the charts don't lie. It is wedging. It did have a micro trend to the upside. It did break its 50-day moving average, which it already has its test. Could this be a W? There's a lot of things that looks good for this. But generally speaking, you can get a massive rejection at 140. Am I going to get in at 135 just to get to 140 and get a contract that's all the way to the end of the year? No. Can I do it for the day? Maybe. Depends on how the oscillators look at the lower time frame. That's what I'm asking y'all to do. All right, let's go ahead and see what else we got as well. They always talking about inflation data. Inflation is relative. It depends on how you prepare yourself. I like seeing some of them. Carter Worth has not posted something. I like to, pick on some of his charting sometimes here and there. Not saying I'm challenging him, but it's just fun to kind of see, are they leading us astray? Or maybe I see something that they don't see and vice versa. Let's go with all right, let's do this one. I was gonna ignore this because I feel like we talk about NVIDIA and tech so much, and I was gonna go and dive into something like, for example, FreePad Moran, alternative assets like crypto. You already know that Trump signed that bill, so that's what is probably playing a part to that. Yeah, let's go with this. Let's go with this one. I like this article. Let's go with this one. All right. NVIDIA will jump another 20% after report of China export license agreement. Right? Okay. Cool. Cute. Very, 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 very good. I'm spelling it wrong. That's very cute. No problem. Right? And here's what I don't like when news like this comes out. Because, again, this is what Wells Fargo says. I'm not saying they have terrible analysis over there. But at the end of the day, yeah, that would be cool if that was the case. But to be honest, I don't anticipate that the video is just going to go up 20% just in one shot. We have been putting a lot of bearish divergences, especially on these histograms here. I think we need a healthy pullback at this point. If this was considered the leg, right? Let's just say that this is, right? And we just throw ahead and throw a fib over here. And let me put it on regular so I don't confuse y'all, right? We're talking about a 382 that could bring us back to 143, maybe 160 if this analysis is actually correct. We are kind of bullish on this daily, and the weekly does look a little overheated. I think the pullback is necessary. So yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, we got golden cross, but if I'm an investor and I want to gain this another 20% or the potential of this 20%, I would either A, go with something relatively light, and because I could get a better price later, and that 20% can be more impactful when that pullback happens. But if I'm wrong, at least I have some exposure. That way I can gain the 20%, because those little small positions, those little 20%, those little 5% that you collect, those things pays for your entries and protects your and your stop loss positions. Take them, right? So not saying it's coming down, it's down pre-market to 182, but looking at NVIDIA, I would love to see a more healthier pullback and reset the oscillator so that way we can be able to push to that upside. All right, let's go ahead and run through the earnings. I'm going to do it this way because I will not be on here relatively long. So let's just go ahead and cover this week. Like I said, this school week is kicking my butt. Okola is one that I used to do during the pandemic. ASTS Space Boba, I remember that one. But I don't want to do anything with negative EPS. Clinique, a good friend of mine's. And my brother-in-law told me about this one. So let's do this, right? Let's go ahead, switch up our screen. Let's move over to Solo. And let's start off with... I need positive. Let's do the Clinique. Let's check out Clinique. All right, so this is Clinique, and Clinique is if you don't know who they are, chemical and specialty. So especially coming after the whole conversation that I told y'all about Dow Chemicals, they're trying to fight it with a little bit of conversation that they got to go through. I want to see this one probably do a little bit of a bounce, because if people are getting away from Dow and you still need chemicals, then that means you need to be able to get those chemicals from somewhere else. So where would that be? Maybe companies like Clinique. Let's go ahead and look exactly what it is that they cover. All right, so it looks like they do emulsions polymers, whatever that means. I'm more a tech guy. Polymer business, production processes, classes of customers, selling and distributing practices, economic. I want to say this is still in the same space. Provision technology and specialty materials. This is the operation following segments, engineering materials, acetyl chain, and others. Okay, yeah, this is going to be a little tricky. I'm not in the chemical space. Put a message in the comments when you're watching this video. See and tell me if this makes some relative sense, that this could be something that you do in a component. I know they're in the same space because they're chemical specialty, but this is now building what could be deemed a base. Let's see their earnings. All right, solid there. Found an extra 50% over in the EPS. And then you got more revenue. That's what you want to see. Did they guide it better? Yep, they increased the guidance compared, and they increased the EPS. This could be a laggard. This could be a setup. Ooh. If they smash earnings, I don't like their dividend structure. Their dividend structure is kind of like all over this place. I don't like, some of it's before earnings, right here, right here, right here, right here. This one was after earnings, which is a little weird, and then here. So I would say that's my only fear, but might be a sleeper. Let me put this on purple. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. Could get a nice little curl up to the upside. Keep an eye on Clinique coming into earnings. I won't be surprised they try to take a test of that gap. That will make things very fun. All right, so let's just keep this going. Let's see what else we got in the earnings. I won't go too much here. Said trying to knock out like 10 things at the same. GoPro. Remember when this company was actually viable? This thing came and get out of its own way. ZipRecruiter, AMC for all my meme folks. AMC earnings is going to be tonight. All right, let's see what's tomorrow morning to kind of get a little gauge. Really, all this junk? All right, there we go. Tomorrow morning we have ourselves. Let's get some positive EPSs. Knifeway Food now. Cardinal Health. If I do think the healthcare industry is getting beat up, so you want to kind of keep an eye on them. This is that. If I'm not mistaken, this is the clothing company that actually make those shoes. ONON. They're going to be reporting. A good friend of mine's told me to watch this for the morning, so those two will be probably key. CoreWeave. We just talked about this one. This thing did look like it's setting something up, but then again, it's IPO'd this year. That last quarter, there's a lot that can get mixed up in there, so make sure you're charting that properly. Luminar Technology. Ever since Tesla says we won't use them, this thing has been suffering. And that's pretty much it. So you got today and tomorrow. What am I keeping my eyes on? Of course, I'm going to still keep my eye on Netflix. I found this bounce very interesting, right? Especially that we had fair value gaps on higher time frames, and we kind of reversed right here. If you watch my video, and I'm going to see if I can find that video, and I'll probably tag it. I said that we're probably going to bounce off between 1,100 and maybe 1,000. And sorry, 1,100 and then, yeah, 1,100 and 1,100 and 1,000. I don't know why I'm like struggling. This is why we got to do recordings, right? 200 moving average is all the way down at that 1,000 level. This is why it made me interested. But the reason why 1,100 was going to be tough is because, of course, psychological. We started a fair value gap here. I saw gaps that was here, which is the fair value gaps. And then these were like jambalaya rice order blocks. You got some greens, you got some breads. You got all types of candles here. Not a true free flow right here, unlike here and here. So since we're down here, I think this is just a test. Perfect bump and run execution. So this is our micro trend that is putting pressure to a major trend. If it follows this trend, look for Netflix to continue to the upside. And I'll give y'all one more. We'll go over to the second month. Affirm. This one right here has annoyed the crap out of me. I did see when we popped up, I was like, dang, I tried to hold on to this when it was back here, but it hit my stop loss. You can kind of see I kept my trading plan on the screen. But it came up to this level, pushed on up, and it got very close to where I was thinking for a target, but it's right back to entry. So I think the buy now, pay later field is being attacked right now. So be conscious on that. Shout out to even Upstart, honorably mentioned, right? They got a nice little pullback on that same reaction, and they're not so much in the buy now, pay later. They're more in just loan origination. So I'm very curious on what happens with companies like Upstart, Affirm. PayPal is another one because they got into that, but again, they have other areas that they use as well. So I'm curious on this. Which one is going to come out of there? XYZ. They have other platforms. This is Cash App, and this is also Square. They have their buy now, pay later. Remember, Square is the one that bought Afterpay, to kind of give you a little perspective on that. So putting all this together, watch out for the buy now, pay later. All right, so I gave y'all everything can kind of get y'all day started. I was going to key off on some mindset stuff, but we're going to go ahead and let y'all go. So I want to say thank you. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. Letting everybody know I do drop some information that is relatively valuable. If you find it not valuable, by all means, go ahead, put in the comment what I did wrong. Hit the don't like button. That's perfectly fine. But if you're just going to go ahead just to be a hater, it's all good. I'm doing something right. Y'all have a great day, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Hopefully by recording. Later, y'all.